Okay, this is No Risk, No Reward Media. Very happy to be joined here today by the one and only Darren of Plymouth. Some of you lovely people out there may know him on social media. He's a very large, potent X or Twitter account. He also goes by the name of Darren Denslow. He is an adventurer, I would say. He is a social commentator. He's a chemist, and he's also a janner. A janner, Janner. And for the uninitiated out there, Darren, maybe you'd like to explain to the world what a janner is.
Oh, a Janner is the nickname for people who were born or from Plymouth. And to be 100% truthful, actually, I'm an honorary Janner because I wasn't born in Plymouth. I've just lived there all my life until about 6 months ago when I left because of the invasion.
Well, once a janner, always a janner.
Yeah,
You can take the Plymouthian out of Plymouth or and all that business, but you can't take the, you know what I'm trying to
yeah,
say.
yeah,
You'll always be dyed in the wool janner. But anyway,
yeah,
it's lovely
yeah,
to
yeah,
see
yeah,
you
of
on
course.
here today. We're going to talk about something that's very relevant today. It's something that a lot of people are rattling their sabers about and shaking their heads about, tutting about, actually complaining about, and thinking is great at the same time. What am I talking about? But this online petition on the government's own website, petition to call a general election. This chap who started it off simply said, I want another general election. I believe the current Labour government have gone back on their promises they laid out in the lead up to the
Every
last
promise.
election. And it's been live at the point of recording here today for about 48 hours. Yesterday, it cracked 1 million signatures. Today, it's cracked over 2 million signatures. And it looks like there's a bit of momentum going behind this one. Now, of course, the questions are being asked. Oh, the government won't do anything. Starmer, I think, has even came out. I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But there's more to it, Darren, is there not, than just simply thinking that we're going to overthrow the government with this one, isn't there? I think this is sending out signs whether or not the government acknowledge them or not.
Yeah, I mean, for start, yeah, I've seen plenty of petitions. As a bit of a Twitter stalwart over the years. I can remember in the Brexit day, there was Remain petitions that went out. They gathered huge momentum. Then the Labour government, the left, those petitions mattered. Oh, we should overturn the Brexit decision because we got 7 million votes, probably from all around the world, and we'll come back to that in a sec, for this Remain petition. I think it was like 6 million votes that they had got. Now we come back. I haven't seen a petition since then, since that lefty petition, to gather so many signatures so quickly. And it gained 1 million signatures in less than 24 hours. Like you said, it's approaching 48 hours and it's over 2 million. And it looks like it's still gaining lots and lots of signatures. But it's never going to change. Starmer's not going to come out and say, oh, let's have a general election now because I've got this petition that anybody can sign that Elon Musk has shared. Maybe it's Russian interference, he'll say, and he's not going to give us a general election. But he has already come out today and acknowledged this petition of over 2 million signatures to say, yeah, not everybody voted for Labour, but our system doesn't work like that. We can't just have another general election, which is, of course, untrue. But the real point, which you're alluding to, is there's been a massive message sent to our government. They've just had a load of tractors driving around Westminster earlier on the week. You won't find any positive commentary on the Labour government, on Keir Starmer, on Rachel from Accounts. You won't hear anything positive or see anything positive, even from the people who voted for them. And I don't know anyone who voted for Labour. I've been looking. I can't find anyone. So they know it's a massive, massive message. Will it pressure him to sort of roll back on some of his policies, like the inheritance tax, like the winter fuel allowance? Who knows? But it's interesting. It's been great entertainment over the weekend, I have to say, on Twitter. But, the reality is, in a week's time, it'll be forgotten, Rick.
Well, here's the thing. I wrote a piece on this on a Substack last night. I was just motivated to just put something down on paper. And, I was posing the question, will this, for example, the actual petition itself said that if they get 50,000 signatures, the government will respond. If they get 100,000 signatures,
Yep.
they will put it up for debate. Now, obviously, they don't expect more than that, these petitions, because there's no escalating scale, like at 500,000, it will be spoken about by the at 1 million, it will be done. No, it just stops at 100K. So with 2 million on there, and as you said, Starmer's came out and acknowledged it today, maybe just verbally, and hopes that this will blow away. But I think this does send out a message. And I likened it to, will it call for a general election? No. Will Labour backtrack on anything? No. So therefore, is it a complete waste of time?
It won't even get debated, Rick. It won't even get debated.
Well, here's
it'll
the
get
thing.
mentioned.
Well, here's the thing, Darren. I think it does this. And this is the analogy that I used. If someone cuts you up in a car and you're driving, right? Someone cuts you up, it hacks you off, and you usually respond by either blasting the horn if you're a little bit bad-tempered like I can be, or shaking your fist or making an obscene gesture at them. Someone's jaywalking on the road. If you're on a bike or they cut you off, you're oi, oi, oi. You know, you react. It won't stop them doing it. They won't change their attitudes and their ways. But just for that brief second, it's a release of tension. It makes you feel like, at least I've got the message across to you, whether you acknowledge it or not. It sends a message out. And if you've ever been cursed out while you've been out and about, or someone's ever flipped you off or called you something, you could say, I'm not paying them any attention, but it gets to you, gets under your skin a little bit. And to me,
you still hear it.
You still hear it. To me, what this petition does, it's like 2 million people flipping off the government over the weekend. They say, well, we're not paying it any attention, but they will understand that something is going on, or mooning the government. Look at it whatever way you want. It's not going to change them, but just it gives you that little bit of feeling that you're showing some form of defiance to them. And as well as that, Darren, I think what people are overlooking in this one is it's not even about affecting change with this, but it's drawing even more attention to a chronic, malignant Labour regime, and it's doing nothing but attracting bad publicity at the minute. So this is just another way to attract more bad publicity to a terrible failing government in a short space of time. I think that's the purpose that this thing ultimately will
and not just to the government, but the establishment, you know, in the bigger picture. And it's not just contained within our shores. Whatever you may think of Elon Musk or any other international figure who might be poking, you know, Donald Trump poking their nose into British affairs, Elon Musk shared this petition. He's been pouring scorn onto the government, and so it's got, you know, it's dragging attention in from outside of our shores. Is my point. And there's also a compounding effect. You know, we have the farmers' protests, we have the winter fuel allowance. It's one disaster after another, and now the latest is, we've got 2,000 on a petition. Hey, what happens if it gets to 11,000, which 11 million, sorry, which is greater than the Labour vote? Then can we have a general election? We can say, well, more people voted on this petition for a new election than actually voted for you to get into government, and they're basically operating on a minority anyway, with a 20% of the voting population electing Labour. So this compounding effect, I don't think Labour are going to finish their term. I would be surprised if they made a year before an election just has to be called, or there's a vote of no confidence, unless something massive happens in between now and that possibility. And who knows, in the state of affairs in this world, anything could happen, Rick.
You see, you and I have talked in the past, and I'm a big believer in trajectory and velocity, right? You look at the trajectory, something's going on at the speed at which it's moving. It'll give you a fair indication where we're going and how we're going to end up. It's like when you throw a stone, you know, if you throw a stone into you'll see the arc that it's moving in. You'll have a rough idea where it's going to land, and depending on how hard you throw it and how big the stone is, how big the splash will be,
Newtonian
right?
physics.
Yeah, well, basically, right? So with respect to UK politics, I've made through the question, can Britain survive 5 years under Labour? And the response has been, right, we said, well, we've survived worse. We survived 14 years under the Tories. We survived this, we survived that. The point that I'm trying to make is they've only been in since the 4th of July. That's not even 5 months, Darren. And in the last 5 months, the amount of damage that they have inflicted and the amount of negativity that they have attracted, if you look at a 5-year term, given where they've went after 5 months, I can't see that if they carry on at this level, the way that they're going, I just can't see Britain sticking it out for another 5 years. That's why I'm asking, can we survive 5 years? So, like you said, I don't think we'll run that long before an election's because even this petition, whether you agree with it or not, or think it's a waste of time or not, it does send a message out. 2 million hits, like you said, 11 million. That's a seventh, roughly, or a sixth of the British voting population. That's a strong message after 5 months. Like, give us a break, guys. Come on, it's only been 5 months. No, we want you out.
Yeah,
We want you
after
out.
5 months, we were. I mean, people wanted them out by the end of August. I mean, it was just, after we had the far right riots and the Southport murders, those children. I mean, there was a massive call for Starmer to stand down, or for Rachel Reeves to stand down. Those calls are only going to get louder, and that pressure eventually becomes very difficult to resist, not just by Starmer and his cohort, but by his opposition, who will be seizing upon this. You can be no doubt that in Prime Minister's questions time this week, Farage is going to get up, because he's the next in line, isn't he? If Starmer goes, who are we going to go to? Probably Farage. Don't be surprised if that doesn't happen. He's going to get up, or Tice, and they're going to use these events to continually to slap Starmer around the face. And Starmer, I don't know if he's got the mettle and the bollocks to really hang in there. He looks like he's a bit lost, and you can see that in his continuous sort of dribble of answers. And he gave another one today. Oh, that's not how our system works. People aren't going to put up with that.
And he's trying his best to be, out there mixing with the people. He's got his jacket off. He's took his tie off. He's his sleeves halfway rolled up his arm, the way Barack Obama's
Trudeau does it as well.
Psychologist told him, you don't roll them all the way up to your elbow. You don't have them cuff at your wrist.
Don't show your biceps.
Halfway up your forearm. It's all psychological. This guy has no idea how to actually connect with people. I believe he's void of any emotion. I believe he's a shell of a man. That's a piece you wrote about, by the way, and you can check out Darren's writings, his video uploads. He has a really great Twitter or X channel. All the links will be in the description box below this, by the way, and also his own YouTube channel, where he just gets away from things, and he goes and sleeps in the snow in a tent like a lunatic up in Dartmoor. But you can follow that, check out the description box. But rewinding back a little bit on Starmer's madness, yeah, who loves that guy? I mean, who loves that guy? I don't know that anybody would say a good word about him. But when you look at the whole cabinet, Darren, when you look at who he has assembled around him, you look at Wes Streeting, you look at Rachel Reeves. I mean, Rachel Reeves is a disaster and a proven liar and grossly incompetent.
I don't know if she'll last another week or two, to be honest, and she might be the sacrificial lamb that she's going to chuck out. Starmer's going to chuck out as red meat just to keep the audience happy for a little while and take the pressure off himself. I think that's coming in the next few weeks with Rachel from accounts.
Do you not find that what I've seen is that there's no give with them? Okay, and if they had any sense at all, if they had any kind of advisors around them that said, listen, you mightn't like doing this, but you're going to have to show that you're bending a little bit here. You're going to have to show that you're acknowledging public opinion. You look at the winter fuel payment thing to begin with. Before Labour got in, they had done their own costing analysis. Oh, if the Tories cut this, it will result in an extra so many thousand excess pensioners' days. They can't ever do that. Then they get in and they do it. They're breaking electoral pledges. And Starmer was very keen to point out, these aren't promises. These are pledges. We'll never go back on them. Now they're going back on them. They didn't bend on the winter fuel payment. The amount of backlash against that was crazy. The inheritance tax business with the farmers, they're not moving in that. This 2 million thing, we don't pay it any attention. They should at least, whether they like it or not, bite their tongues and say, okay, we're going to have to at least show we've got a little bit of give just to keep her. But they won't even do that.
No. In fact, they doubled down. I mean, I think he's doubling down today on this petition, and he's doubled down on, the inheritance tax. In fact, after the protests, they wheeled in Blackrock, and he stuck out a load of tweets picturing him having a meeting with Larry Fink. And you can only assume I go, who the hell is advising Starmer on optics here? Or he's shoving it down, he's really rubbing it into the faces of the people that he's hurting the most in this country, which is white British people, as far as I can tell. And at the same time, another story come out on the Express saying they're going to chuck the same amount of money they're going to raise from this inheritance tax. They're going to send that to farmers overseas. So they're doubling down, and they seem to be rubbing it in our faces. And, you get really conspiratorial as why this is happening, but there's definitely going to be a backlash.
For sure. And if people, maybe people, a lot of people maybe listening into this maybe aren't aware of who Blackrock are or who Larry Fink is, but they're globalists through and through. They control so much money. For example, in Ukraine, they've been almost appointed to rebuild that country from the ashes again, to the tune of I don't know how many trillions, with bang up farmland, bang up, you name it. They've got their fingers in the pie. And just last week, Fink got the red carpet treatment at 10 Downing Street, and he's already entertained Vladimir Zelensky this year, got the red carpet treatment. And of course, Bill Gates, and I think even Barack Obama was seen scuttling out of number 10. Maybe that was under Sunak, I'm not quite sure. But either way, these people are in there, in the cabinet rooms. Fink has got the ear. And then Starmer talks about how he wants to work in partnership with him. I mean, hidden in plain sight would be an understatement.
Yeah. It's all there, and they're rubbing your nose in it, and they want to make sure you know what's going on. They'll call us a conspiracy theorist when we say, "Hey, why is Bill Gates here? Why is Fink here? Oh, they're notorious for buying up all the land." And this comes almost right hot on the heels of you making a policy which will effectively leverage land away from white British farmers, the foundation of our country. And there's something else. I listened to something that Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, had been saying on this issue. And he is right. This is almost like a form of ethnic cleansing. Yeah, because what happens when all these white farmers lose their land and they're not producing, and that heritage has mostly been lost from the country? What happens to all of us that have always lived here, who have always based our communities are built out of these farms? I live in an area now in East Cornwall. I'm surrounded by farmers. The whole village is sort of based on farmers, and sort of I don't understand what would happen to these places when they were all gone. The whole fabric of this country will fall apart, and at the same time we're being flooded in with new arrivals. And that's how I actually do see this. This is an attack not just on farmers getting the land away to give to Larry Fink or to Bill Gates, but it's also just an attack on the very sort of foundations of British culture. And I think it's quite worrying for the future about where we're going to go with all these other attacks on the population here in Great Britain.
And not just, by the way, in terms of inheritance tax, I neglected to mention, and Henri mentioned it in terms of the crazy Labour cabinet, but Ed Miliband, who literally, I believe, is a grade A bona fide lunatic. He is hell-bent on, building, and they call them farms. They call them wind farms. You notice that? Solar farms on farmland. Farms produce things.
We've got them here.
Farms are organic and natural. Wind farms are not, solar farms are not. And, without getting into the argument, I mean, I'm looking out the window here and I'm seeing a lot of roofs around here with people with solar panels on. That's fine. If you want to buy a solar panel, stick it on your roof, crack on. But if you tell me that you're going to, commission the local park, or, 10 acres of farmland around me that's growing potatoes that the community are eating, and you want to stick these panels there, the question would be, well, stick them up, all right, but put them on roofs of buildings, put them on roofs of garages. Why are you commissioning farmland to do this? And again, against the wills of local populations who have petitioned against this. Local councils have spoke out, but no, it must go through again. No give there, Darren. And another prong of the attack on the farmer, not just from tax, but also and lack of subsidy, but also in terms of taking land for wind and solar.
and preventing agricultural crops being grown on it. And you have to say, what's the outcome of putting all this? Well, we've got less energy and less food. And you have to say, well, maybe that's why they did it. And that's why they're not just sticking it on everyone's roofs. Because that would be the answer, wouldn't it? If you wanted to solve the world's energy crisis, you just stick a solar panel on every roof. And then you've effectively, all right, you haven't solved your problem. You got solar panels to deal with in the future. But yeah, it's an attack on farmers, on farmland, and I think it's also about creating a scarcity in resources like food, like energy, so that we become more reliant on government without having no choice.
It looks to be going that way, and again, the naysayers and the skeptics out there who say no, it's nothing to do with a land grab, but it's not just happening in the UK. It's happening in Ireland. It's happening in France. There's all hell's breaking loose there because in France we saw it with the Dutch farmers. We're seeing it happening in Australia as well. So it's not just a one-off isolated thing that's contained to the UK or contained to Ireland. This is a European-wide initiative that's going on. And when you start to dig down, you see corporations like Blackrock or Vanguard, and you see movers and shakers like Fink, and whoever it is above him. I'm sure he's not the top of the tree, and it doesn't really matter who's the top of the tree. The bottom line is who's it affecting at the bottom of the tree, and in this case it's our farmers, and then by default us, because if they go, the old slogan, no farmers no food, it rings true.
It's an accurate statement, and it's a meme that people can recognize. And the other thing, just quickly, with Fink, is he likes the rental market. Yeah, he likes to have cheap accommodation, high rent, high volume. That's the way he sees the future. Everything's got to be subscription, including your home. And so that might be something else that he's looking at doing with all this farmland. We've got to put all the new arrivals somewhere, Rick.
Yeah, that's another aspect of it as well. We'll not get into the property side of things as per now, but again, that's affecting many, if not all Brits at the minute, priced out of the market to buy, priced out of the market to rent, if you can find a rental property to begin with. And again, that's all part of the Blackrock modus operandi. We control the houses, we control the properties, we set the rents, you own nothing, and you're going to be as happy as we tell you to be. Now, assuming the world does not end in the not too distant future, which, let's be honest, it looks like certainly Biden and Britain are pushing towards that by the use of their certain missile types far deep into Russia, and the escalations that are happening there as well. Doomsday clock, we've talked about this so many times. It's at 2 minutes to midnight. Now it's at 90 seconds to midnight. It's 60 seconds to midnight. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It could happen. It could happen. And let's just say it could happen, but nothing's being done at the minute really to de-escalate that, which is bizarre considering that even if they do have a nuclear war or whatever, and the elites in inverted commas, or the cockroaches is what I would call them, have their bunkers and their purified water supplies, what are they going to rule over? They're going to rule over ash and a nuclear winter, a post-apocalyptic landscape that they can pop out time to time in their little tanks and, go over the rubble. It doesn't really serve anyone any purpose, does it?
I mean, I can't understand why there is this push. Unless there's this like massive agenda in Russia and everybody's on the same side and it's a psyop and a distraction that's keeping it, maybe. But let's just assume that it isn't, seen as the impact of such a thing like a nuclear war is massive. I don't understand. And you said, USA and Britain seem to be driving this. Seems like Britain's the one really pushing for it. I don't understand why Starmer, only a month or so ago, Starmer was the one who went to America saying, I want to use Storm Shadows. Can you give me permission? Because we need American authority, systems, intelligence to use them. And he got sent packing, saying, no, don't do that. It'll start a third world war. And now that permission has been given, Starmer, within 24 hours, gave authority to use Storm Shadows. And they were used again by the end of that day. So there seems to be a massive push to continue to poke Russia. Russia have just fired an IRBM and an intermediate range ballistic missile. It was at the time quoted as being an ICBM, but either way, they've just used a new, what's it called, a Osheniko missile, which stands for Hazel, which is a really nice name for a nuclear weapon. That can hit anywhere in Europe, Britain, anywhere in the region. I mean, if that isn't a wake up call to people that this new hypersonic intercontinental missile has been used, then I don't know what is. And all the commentary I'm getting, that I'm following, so I follow the war very closely in terms of my YouTube and all the rest of it, is America are going to ignore it, so are Britain, and they're going to carry on poking Russia. And it's like, but they've got to escalate, you know. So what's next?
I know.
How much higher? How much further can Russia actually escalate? They might have thought they were taking control of that escalation ladder with this missile launch and hit, but the opposition don't care. They're going to keep going, I don't know where it's going to end up. I've got loads of tents and food, and I've prepped, because I do really, really consider the only thing that we have got to worry about in this whole myriad of conspiracies that we walk through is that world wars have happened. Yeah. Wars happen all the time. Nuclear weapons have been used, and there's nothing stopping us or stopping it from happening again. In fact, it seems we desperately want it to happen again. And I find the average Joe public are more worried about a cold, or a snotty nose, or a petition. We're getting excited about a petition than they are about Russia nuking us. And it's hard to understand.
Is there a case to be made as well, though, that we're a much softer people now than we were in 1939, Absolutely. And a much softer people than we were in 1914, and further back? We're in a soft, weak, mollycoddled, online existing, no exposure to real genuine hardships in the real world. Everything's just there, and it's there instantly, and it's delivered to our door. We get stuff delivered to the door. We want takeaways delivered to the door. People would rather sit and watch Netflix than go out for a hike in the moors, for example. So if push comes to shove and things do go south very quickly, I think, aside from the fact that it'll be catastrophic, period, for society, period, is not equipped to deal with any kind of, they'll just crumble after 2 days. Remember, the internet went out. You almost died when you were all
suicidal
for about 12 hours. Can you imagine? What? No more internet.
I'm now equipped for that. I'm now to deal with that. I couldn't then.
But that's my point, Darren. How many people are in that position? They're literally like crack addicts when it comes to their conveniences, their comfortable living, their relatively easy existence. So when you throw something like that at people, it could end up in something crazy. I saw just we'll wrap it up at this, but I think it was George Galloway. He made a little video clip last week talking about this missile that the Russians could fire, and he said, this thing goes at Mach 10. It can't be stopped. It's got 5 warheads, and 3 warheads, each will break into 5, and each one of those 5 has 10.
It can hit 18 targets, this weapon.
18 on it. It can't be stopped. And if they fire it, it'll be here within 13 minutes. Bang. That's it. Game over. So, I don't know what's going to happen. And, I'm trying to
We're in crosshairs right now. It really seems like we are, Like we've never been this close to a nuclear war, ever.
Well, all I can say is, for anyone listening, and we're not actually doom merchants, believe it or not, listening to us, you would think we are, but we do say all this with a little pinch of salt and a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor, because if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. But this is just a commentary on what we can see happening. Of course, some people will believe it and be bricking themselves about it, and other people saying, oh, it's all a psyop, it's not real. Listen, whatever works for you, works for you. But the one thing I would say is to anyone listening, try and be as prepared as you can. Try and not be so dependent on the internet. Try and not have all your relationships online. Forge local support groups. Be friends with people that you know that you can help, or they can help you if the chips are down, and start becoming a little bit more hardy, is what I would say. And if nothing else, Darren, who could say that's bad advice?
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and have a plan. It sounds silly, but I've got a plan. If something I live near Plymouth, if something went off and Plymouth got attacked, I do have, in my mind at least, I have a plan. Me and Lucy have a plan how we would get out of here if there was a disaster. But, I would definitely have resources, food, fuel, energy, etc. Water, medicines. I would have Pardon? Gold
Gold
coins.
coins.
I'm running out of them now. It's going up. The thing about war is really good, yeah? Because I go, how's war coming along? Let's just have a look at the gold price. Oh, shit, it's jumped up £100 today. That's great. War's coming sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a plan. And take the fact that there is a threat of war. I would take that quite seriously. And if you get the opportunity to speak to your elected representatives, wherever you are, if it's the UK or elsewhere, because the global war is global, I would speak to them and say, no, you need to stop it, because all of our elected officials seem to be pushing in the same direction. And that is conflict with Russia. And I cannot understand why this is, to be really honest. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Why
Maybe they can see, maybe they see the end
suicidal
of
for this
their,
country.
maybe they can see the end of their grasp, because narratives are unraveling fast. You know, woke starting to, the wheels are coming off woke. The wheels are coming off net zero. The latest COP29 has been a bit of a disaster in the scheme of things. Maybe when they're seeing themselves losing grip of it, it's like, what is it? The worst type of tyrant will burn a kingdom down just simply so we can rule over the ashes. There could be that element to it as well. But let's hope and pray that we are not part of the ash landscape going forward. So I'm going to call it for now. No doubt we'll talk again sooner rather than later, I hope. Check out Darren's social medias. Check out his own YouTube channel. All the details are in the description box below. There'll be a pinned comment below. And of course, as far as I'm concerned, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and share the content. It's easy and free. You cut and paste it, stick it into a Facebook group, stick it onto a WhatsApp channel. Maybe someone somewhere will have a light bulb moment, or maybe they'll vomit, in which case, either way, they don't have to come back. There's no harm done. So for now, from Darren Plymouth, aka Darren Jenner, and me, Rick Munn, this is No Risk, No Reward Media, over and out.